Let's talk about a number, a single number, that for a very long time, society has used to decide your future. What if I told you that number is basically a statistical illusion? Well, today we are taking a hard, rational look at the IQ score, and we're going to tear it down piece by piece. Let's dive in.
Yeah, it all starts with something like this, a number. Maybe you've even gotten one yourself, a 115, a 140, maybe 130. For decades, a number like this, spit out after a short test, has been used to label us, to open doors, or to slam them shut. It's been used to define our entire sense of self-worth.
But you have to stop and ask the really fundamental question here. Should one little score from a bunch of abstract puzzles really have the power to define the incredible potential of a human mind? Or is it possible that this number isn't actually measuring you at all?
Okay, let's just cut right to the chase. The bottom line of this whole explainer is this: your IQ score does not measure how smart you are. What it measures is how good you are at taking one very specific and, as we'll see, fundamentally flawed test. That's it.
So, to really understand why it's so flawed, we need to look under the hood. We've got to look at the math that makes the score. And that brings us to the first huge piece of the illusion, the engineered bell curve. So every single IQ score is built on this shape right here, the normal distribution. You know it as the bell curve. Now, the most important two words on this slide are artificially manipulated. See, this means that human intelligence doesn't just naturally fall into this pretty little curve. No. Test designers actually work backwards. They pick, they throw out, and they score questions for one reason: to force the results to fit this exact shape. It's not a discovery of nature, it's an act of engineering.
And here are the rules of the game they've set up. First, the average score is always 100. It's not that 100 is the natural average, it's that they rig the test to make 100 the average. Then, they design the question so that about 68% of everybody who takes it is guaranteed to land somewhere between 85 and 115. This isn't a measurement, it's a rule that's imposed on the data before you even pick up a pencil.
So here's the big takeaway from all that math. An IQ score is not an absolute measurement. Think about your height. That's a real physical quantity. An IQ score is nothing like that. It's just a relative ranking. A score of 130 doesn't mean you have 130 intelligence points. It just means that on that one day, on that one test, you did better than 98% of the other people in their sample group. It's not a measure of your mind, it's a measure of your place in line.
So if the score is just your place in line, what exactly is the line for? Well, that leads us straight to the second fatal flaw. The test only measures an incredibly narrow and frankly biased sliver of what it means to be smart.
Now look, IQ tests are pretty good at measuring a few very specific things: recognizing patterns, abstract logic, fiddling with shapes in your head. But just look at the other side of this chart. Look at what's completely ignored: emotional intelligence, creativity, strategic thinking, your ability to lead or persuade. Pretty much all the skills that actually determine success in the real world.
And this creates a huge measurement bias. If you happen to go to a school or grow up in a culture that trained you in this one specific type of abstract thinking, then you're basically primed to nail this test. The test isn't discovering some hidden raw potential, it's just rewarding the people who've already been trained to play its very specific game. I love this analogy. Think about it. It's like having a supercomputer that can model the entire global climate, but you decide to measure its power by seeing how well it plays a single video game, like Pac-Man. It sounds absolutely ridiculous, right? Well, that is precisely what an IQ test does to the incredible complexity of the human brain. Okay, but if all that wasn't enough, this next point might be the final nail in the coffin for the idea that IQ is some fixed number you're born with. The evidence is clear. The score isn't stable. In fact, it has been changing dramatically for an entire century. This phenomenon has a name. It's called the Flynn effect. For almost 100 years, raw scores on IQ tests have been going up and up and up all over the world. To put it bluntly, if you, an average person today, took an IQ test from the 1930s, you would almost certainly be classified as a genius by their standard. And that forces us to ask a really obvious question. Did our DNA just get a massive upgrade? Did our fundamental genetics for intelligence somehow evolve in just a few generations? Well, from a biological standpoint, the answer is a hard no. That's not how evolution works. So if it's not our genes, what's really going on? The answer is one of the most exciting discoveries in neuroscience: neuroplasticity. This is the proven fact that our brains are not fixed hardware. They're not static. They're constantly adapting, rewiring, and rebuilding themselves based on our environment, our education, everything we experience. The Flynn effect is just massive proof of neuroplasticity at work. As our world got more abstract and complex, our brains literally leveled up to meet the challenge. And this is incredibly empowering. It means the ability to solve hard problems isn't some prize in a genetic lottery. It is a skill. It's something that can be built, trained, and strengthened through practice.
So let's put all the pieces together. Where does that leave us? What's the final verdict on the IQ score? Well, it's pretty clear. It's time to move beyond this flawed metric for good.
So here's the final verdict. Based on everything we've seen, the IQ score is not a real measurement. It's a manufactured ranking. It's engineered to fit a fake curve. It measures a tiny fraction of what it means to be smart. It's deeply biased. And we know for a fact it's not fixed. Honestly, case closed.
Because at the end of the day, the real world doesn't care about your test score. The universe doesn't reward your score on a quiz. It rewards consistent execution. It rewards adaptability. It rewards you for actually applying your brain to solve real problems. That's what matters.
And so that leaves us with one last question. A question for you to think about. If your potential isn't defined by some number from a broken test, then what will you build? What will you create? What problems will you solve? How are you going to measure your own potential?